Welcome back to Letters of Stewardship. I'm Alex McTaggart, and today I want to explore a theme that sits at the heart of almost all of my recent work: how we think about education, leadership, and the future when time is literally shifting beneath our feet. I want to talk about love, about degrowth, about AI, and about the ecological crisis, and about the quiet work of refusing futures that are being forced upon us. The title of today's episode is Love, Degrowth, and the Cartography of Futures: Rethinking Education at the Edge of the Human. Part 1. When time speeds up. Time no longer feels like it used to. It used to be seasonal, communal, and human. Then it became industrial, regulated by bells, schedules, and factories. Then digital, instantaneous, always on. And now we've entered something stranger: predictive time. Artificial intelligence doesn't just react to us, it anticipates us. It chooses before we choose. It shapes the horizon of what is even visible to us. In my forthcoming Cambridge book, I call this an ontological shift, a change in what it means to be a subject in education. We now inhabit systems that are faster than care, faster than attention, faster than the slow requirements of human development. Gunther Anders, writing long before AI, saw this coming. He warned us that we would become outdated, not because machines surpass us, but because they set the tempo of our lives. And nowhere is this more evident than in education. Schools and universities now operate at machinic tempo. Real-time dashboards, predictive analysis, optimization, surveillance. But beneath that acceleration, something is stirring, a longing for slowness, for meaning, for ecology, for relation. This episode is about that longing and about how we turn it into leadership. Part 2. When more is the problem. Selwyn and digital growth. Neil Selwyn has become one of the few voices willing to say something unfashionable, that perhaps we need less technology in education, not more. In his recent work on digital degrowth, he argues that instead of creating more humane, equitable, or creative learning, educational technology has intensified, quite to the contrary, stress, data extraction, workload, inequality, and ecological harm. The problem isn't simply the technology, it's the myth that acceleration equals improvement. Selwyn proposes something radically different. Technology that is smaller, not larger, slower, not faster, communal, not corporate, ecological, not extractive, supportive rather than addictive. Degrowth isn't austerity, it's a philosophy of enoughness that resonates with the arguments I make in my Routledge book, Sustainable Educational Leadership and the Climate Crisis. Our leadership cultures, obsessed with metrics, efficiency, and audit, have exhausted teachers, alienated learners, and contributed to ecological collapse. Selwyn names the technological layer of the same crisis. Together, these critiques invite us into a new imagination of what education could be if it stopped running faster and started running truer. Part 3. AI, ontology, and what we are becoming. AI complicates this further. It's not a neutral tool. It is a partner in our thinking. We write with it, plan with it, decide with it. It shapes what we imagine to be work, knowledge, and judgment. So the real question for education is not how do we use AI well, but what kinds of beings are we becoming in relation to thinking machines? Here I draw on the famous Cambridge philosopher J.M.E. McTaggart. For McTaggart, the highest form of reality is not cognition but love, not sentimentality but relational attention, ethical regard, and the refusal to treat others as data points. AI accelerates, but love slows down. AI optimizes, and love attends. AI predicts, and love recognizes. My worry is not that AI overtakes the human, it is that we become more like AI, flatter, faster, more efficient, less capable of depth and wonder, which is why I argue for ontological leadership, a practice rooted in the question of what sort of humans we will choose to be in this time. Leaders must be stewards of being, not managers of systems. Part 4, the 4 crises of educational leadership. Across my Cambridge monograph and my Routledge book, I set out 4 crises that shape our current moment right now. Number 1, the ecological crisis. Education is implicated in the economic logics exhausting the earth. We prepare children for systems that destroy the world they live in. 2, the epistemological crisis. Knowledge has been flattened into metrics, dashboards, and pseudoscience. Human judgment is being displaced by algorithmic outputs. 3, the affective crisis. Teachers and leaders are burning out. The emotional life of schools has become untenable, intensified by digital acceleration. 4, the ethical crisis. Systems reproduce inequality while claiming neutrality, rationality, and meritocracy. Algorithms simply mask injustice with a veneer of objectivity. These crises reinforce one another. Knowledge reduction fuels emotional exhaustion. Ethical blindness feeds ecological breakdown. To navigate them, I propose cartographic leadership. Leadership as map-making, tracing how history shapes the present, revealing the power lines beneath our practices, and opening up new routes that do not repeat inherited logics. Selwyn's Degrowth helps us see the terrain, but we also need practices that invite us back into the living world, which brings me to Hilary Cremin. Part 5, Hilary Cremin and the Rewilding of Education. At Cambridge, Hilary Cremin has been developing a remarkable idea: rewilding education. Rewilding reconnects learners with ecology, embodiment, slowness, and the more than human world. Her peace pedagogy reframes peace not as the absence of conflict, but as the presence of the right relations with oneself, with others, and with the earth. In my own work, I argue that without the arts, without ecological experience, without community, children are denied the conditions for caring for the planet at all. Cremin's rewilding restores wonder, embodied presence, ecological attunement, and the possibility of relation. If Selwyn gives us digital degrowth, Cremin gives us pedagogical rewilding. Together, they form a blueprint for resisting the disembodied acceleration of contemporary schooling. Part 6, 4 principles for regenerative leadership. Bringing these threads together, I propose 4 principles for this kind of regenerative educational leadership. Number 1, slow the tempo. Reintroduce rhythms that allow thought, care, and depth. Refuse acceleration as the default. 2, rewild education. Ecology and the arts are not enrichment, they are the foundation of human becoming. 3, lead with love, not optimization. Love as ethical regard, as attention. It is the antidote to the instrumentalization of AI and datafication. 4, new maps. Be cartographers. Trace the inherited logics that shape your institutions and sketch new futures that resist these logics. This is not utopian. This is the realism of survival, ecological, ethical, and human. This brings me on to the conclusion. Holding the future open. We are the first generation of educators to share a conceptual space with generative AI. We might also be the last generation with a real chance to shape how humanity and technology coexist. The question is no longer whether AI will change education. It already has. The question is whether we surrender to acceleration or whether we insist on futures grounded in peace, ecology, relationality, and love. Selwyn gives us resistance. Cremin gives us practice. My work tries to offer a map. Perhaps leadership today is simply this: to hold the future open long enough for justice, for love, for earth, and for the slow work of becoming human, for that to take root again. Thank you for listening. If you found this episode meaningful, please feel free to share it or join the conversation on Substack, and do, as they say, like and subscribe. Until next time, hold the future open.